I tested my husband by saying, I got fired today, but what I overheard next changed everything. I never thought 3 simple words would destroy my entire world. I got fired today. That's all I said to test my husband, Marcus. But what I overheard him say on the phone 30 minutes later made me realize I'd been married to a complete stranger for 7 years. Before we continue, I need you to do something important. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button right now. Seriously, it helps more than you know. And I promise you won't regret it because the stories on this channel are absolutely wild. Also, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me what city or country you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories reach. Your comments genuinely make my day. Now, let's get back to what happened, because trust me, you need to hear this. The morning of October 12th started like any other Thursday in our Decatur home. I woke up at 6:30 a.m., made breakfast for Marcus and our 5-year-old daughter, Amara, and got ready for my job as a senior marketing manager at one of Atlanta's top advertising firms. I'd worked there for 6 years, climbing from an entry-level position to leading a team of 12 people. I was proud of what I'd built, proud of the 6-figure salary I brought home, proud that I could contribute equally to our household. Marcus worked in finance, or at least that's what he told everyone. He had his own consulting business that he ran from our home office. Some months were great, he'd say. Other months were slow. I never questioned it too deeply because my income was stable enough to cover us during the lean times. That's what marriage is, right? Supporting each other through the ups and downs, or so I thought. But lately, something had been off. I couldn't put my finger on it exactly. It was little things. The way Marcus's eyes would light up when I mentioned a big bonus coming my way. How he'd gotten unusually interested in my work lately, asking detailed questions about my projects, my team, my relationship with my boss. At first, I thought he was just being supportive, finally taking an interest in my career after years of him being somewhat indifferent. Then there were the phone calls. Marcus had always been on his phone a lot for work, but recently it had intensified. He'd step out of the room, go into the garage, even walk outside in the cold just to take certain calls. And when I'd ask who it was, he'd say a client. Always a client with the same dismissive wave of his hand. My best friend Shanice had noticed it too. Girl, I don't want to be that friend, but something seems off with Marcus. She'd told me 2 weeks ago over brunch at our favorite spot in Midtown. He's just stressed about work. I defended him. You know how it is with his business. The economy's been rough. Shanice had given me that look. The one that said she wanted to say more but knew I wasn't ready to hear it. Okay, sis. Just keep your eyes open. That's all I'm saying. I'd brushed it off. Marcus and I had been together since college. We'd built a life together. We had Amara. We had our beautiful 4-bedroom house. We had date nights every Friday. We had stability. Sure, things weren't perfect, but whose marriage was after 7 years. But then came last Tuesday. I'd gotten home early from work, around 3 p.m., because a meeting got canceled. Marcus didn't know I was home. His car was in the garage, and I could hear him in his office on a call. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I was just walking past his office to our bedroom when I heard my name. Yeah, Simone makes good money, he was saying. His voice had this tone I'd never heard before. Cold. Calculating. She's pulling in about $140K, plus bonuses. Could be close to $160K this year. There was a pause. Nah. She doesn't know about the debts. I've kept that separate. She thinks the business is doing fine. My heart had started beating faster. What debts? What was he talking about? Look, I just need to hold on a little longer. Marcus had continued. Once I get access to her retirement accounts, we can figure this out. She trusts me completely. She'll sign whatever I put in front of her. I'd backed away from the door, my hands shaking. I'd gone straight to our bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and tried to process what I'd just heard. But I couldn't make sense of it. Access to my retirement accounts? Debts he'd hidden from me. What was going on? That night, I'd acted normal. I'd smiled, made dinner, played with Amara, watched TV with Marcus like nothing had happened. But inside, I was screaming. I needed to know what was really going on. I needed to know who I'd actually married. That's when I came up with the test. A simple, straightforward test that would show me who Marcus really was. I would tell him I got fired. Not just let go or laid off, but fired, terminated, gone. And I would see how he reacted. Would he comfort me? Would he panic about money? Would he be supportive? Or would he reveal something darker? So, that Thursday morning, I went through my normal routine, kissed Amara goodbye as I dropped her at school, and then instead of going to work, I went to a coffee shop in Virginia Highland. I sat there for hours, rehearsing what I would say, how I would say it, trying to predict how Marcus might respond. At 4:30 p.m., I drove home. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I kept telling myself this was crazy, that I was overreacting to a conversation I'd probably misunderstood. But something deep in my gut, that intuition that women have, was screaming that I needed to do this. I pulled into our driveway and sat in the car for a moment, gathering my courage. Through the window, I could see Marcus in the living room, sitting on the couch with his laptop. He looked so normal, so familiar. The man I'd loved for over a decade. How could this be the same person I'd heard on that phone call? I grabbed my purse and walked to the front door. I didn't have my usual work bag, because I hadn't actually been to work. I'd have to explain that away somehow. I took a deep breath and walked inside. "Hey babe," Marcus called out without looking up from his laptop. "You're home early." "Yeah," I said, setting my purse down. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "We need to talk." That got his attention. He looked up, and I saw something flicker across his face. Concern? Annoyance? I couldn't tell. "What's up? Everything okay?" I sat down in the chair across from him. I wanted distance between us. I wanted to see his face clearly when I said what I was about to say. "I got fired today." The words hung in the air between us. I watched Marcus's face carefully, cataloging every micro-expression, every reaction. His eyes widened, his mouth opened slightly, and then I saw it. Just for a split second. Before he caught himself, I saw panic. Pure, undiluted panic. Not the kind of panic that comes from worrying about your spouse. The kind of panic that comes from watching your plans crumble. "What?" He stood up, the laptop sliding off his lap. "What do you mean you got fired? What happened?" I'd prepared a whole story. I told him there were budget cuts, that they'd eliminated my entire department, that I'd been walked out this afternoon with a severance package. I watched him the whole time I was talking, and what I saw chilled me to my core. He wasn't worried about me. He wasn't thinking about how I was feeling, about the emotional impact of losing a job I'd worked so hard for. He was doing math. I could literally see him calculating in his head, probably figuring out how long my severance would last, what this meant for whatever financial scheme he had going. Okay, he said. "Pacing now, how much is the severance? Did they say anything about your retirement accounts? Can you roll those over? We should probably consolidate everything. Make it easier to manage." There it was. Not "Are you okay?" Not "I'm so sorry, babe." Not "We'll figure this out together." Just immediate concern about money, about my retirement accounts. Exactly what I'd overheard him talking about. "I don't know all the details yet," I lied. "I have to go back tomorrow to meet with HR and sign papers." "Tomorrow?" He seemed agitated. "Can you do it today? Like, call them right now?" "Marcus, I just lost my job." I let some real emotion creep into my voice. "Can you maybe be a little more concerned about how I'm feeling instead of the paperwork?" He caught himself. His whole demeanor shifted, like watching an actor slip into character. "Of course, babe. I'm sorry. I'm just stressed. You know, trying to figure out how we'll manage. Come here." He opened his arms for a hug, but I couldn't. I physically could not make myself move toward him. I shook my head. "I need a minute. I'm going to go lie down." I walked to our bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the bed. My whole body was shaking. Every instinct I had was screaming that something was terribly wrong. This wasn't the reaction of a loving husband. This was something else entirely. I heard Marcus on the phone in the living room. His voice was muffled, but I could tell he was agitated. I crept to the door and opened it just a crack, just enough to hear. "Yeah, it's me. We got a problem," he was saying. "Simone just told me she got fired today. The whole department got cut." There was a pause as whoever was on the other end spoke. I know, but this changes things. She's not going to have that income anymore." And I was counting on that. To Marcus's voice dropped lower, and I had to strain to hear. "Look, I owe you $85,000. I told you I'd have it by the end of the year. I was planning to use her accounts, but now my blood ran cold. $85,000. He owed someone $85,000, and he was planning to use my accounts to pay it. My retirement. My savings. Money I'd worked for years to build. I'll figure something out. Marcus continued. Just give me a little more time. Maybe I can get her to sign some papers before she realizes what's going on. Yeah. I know what happens if I don't pay. I said I'll handle it. He hung up, and I quickly but quietly closed the bedroom door. I pressed my back against it, sliding down until I was sitting on the floor. This was real. This wasn't my imagination or paranoia. Marcus was in debt, serious debt, and he was planning to steal from me to pay it off. But who did he owe money to? And what kind of person was he that he would betray his own wife like this? The man I'd met in college. The one who'd courted me with poetry and promises. Who'd proposed on the beach at sunset. Who'd held my hand through 18 hours of labor with Amara. That man was a lie. Or maybe he'd always been this person, and I'd just been too in love to see it. I heard his footsteps coming toward the bedroom. I quickly stood up and walked to the bathroom, turning on the faucet like I'd been washing my face. When I came out, he was standing in the doorway. You okay, babe? His voice was dripping with false concern. Yeah, I said flatly. Just need some time to process. Look, I've been thinking, maybe we should talk to a financial advisor. Figure out the best way to handle your severance and retirement money. I actually know a guy who could help us maximize everything. I bet you do, I thought. I bet he's the same guy you were just on the phone with, ready to help you drain my accounts. Marcus, I'm not making any financial decisions right now. I just lost my job. Can we talk about this later? I saw frustration flash across his face before he masked it. Sure. Of course. I'm going to pick up Amara from aftercare. You want me to grab dinner on the way back? That's fine, I said, just wanting him gone so I could think. As soon as I heard his car pull out of the driveway, I grabbed my laptop and started searching. I checked our joint bank accounts first. Everything looked normal there, at least as far as I could tell. Then I checked my retirement accounts, my personal savings, everything that was in my name. All still intact. For now. But I needed to know more. I needed to know who Marcus owed money to and why. I needed to know what else he'd been hiding. And I needed to protect myself and Amara before he could do whatever he was planning to do. I called Shanice. She answered on the first ring. Girl, what's wrong? I can hear it in your voice. Can you come over? I need help. And Shanice, I need you to not tell anyone. Not even Derek. There was a pause. Her husband Derek and Marcus were friends. Played basketball together every Sunday. I'm on my way, she said without hesitation. 20 minutes. True to her word, Shanice was ringing my doorbell exactly 20 minutes later. I let her in, checked to make sure none of our neighbors were watching, and closed the door. What's going on? She'd brought her laptop bag. I noticed. Always prepared. I told her everything. The conversation I'd overheard on Tuesday. The test I'd done today. Marcus's reaction. The phone call I'd just listened to. By the time I finished, Shanice's face had gone from concerned to outright angry. That's sorry excuse for a man, she hissed. $85,000? Ira. What has he gotten himself into? I don't know, but I need to find out. I need to see his computer, his phone records, his bank accounts, everything. Before he does something I can't undo. Shanice opened her laptop. Derek works in IT security, remember? He's shown me a few things over the years. If Marcus has been hiding money or communications, we can find it. Does he use the same passwords for everything? Usually. He's terrible with security. Uses Amara's birthday plus our anniversary year for almost everything. Amateur, Shanice muttered, her fingers already flying across her keyboard. Okay. Do you know his email password? We can start there. Within an hour, Shanice had accessed Marcus's email, his cloud storage, and several financial accounts I didn't even know existed. What we found made me physically sick. Marcus didn't just owe $85,000. He owed money to 4 different people, totaling close to $200,000. He'd been gambling, online poker, sports betting, even some casino debts from trips I'd thought were for work. There were threatening messages, payment plans he'd defaulted on, and worst of all, there were documents. Documents with my forged signature, applying for credit cards in my name that I'd never authorized. Oh my God, I whispered, staring at the screen. He's been stealing my identity. Shanice, I could be liable for all of this. Not if we prove you didn't authorize it, Shanice said, her jaw set. We need to screenshot everything. Every email. Every document. Every threatening message. We're building a case. A case for what? Divorce, fraud charges, whatever you need. Ira, this man has put you and Amara in danger. People who gamble at this level, who owe this much money to these kinds of people, they're dangerous. And Marcus was willing to throw you under the bus to save himself. She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing and accepting are two different things. 7 years. 7 years of my life with this man. And it was all built on lies. We spent the next 2 hours documenting everything. By the time we heard Marcus's car pulling into the driveway, we had over 300 screenshots saved to a secure cloud account that only Shanice and I could access. I'll keep digging, Shanice promised as she packed up her laptop. But Ira, you need to be careful. If he realizes, if he thinks you're going to expose him or cut off his access to your money, there's no telling what he might do. What are you saying? I'm saying I've read enough true crime stories to know that desperate people do desperate things. Please, just be careful. Keep your phone on you at all times. And if anything feels off, anything at all, you call me immediately. After Shanice left, I sat in the living room waiting for Marcus and Amara. When they came through the door, Amara ran to me with her arms outstretched, her beautiful smile lighting up the room. Mommy, Daddy said you had a bad day at work. I did, baby, I said, pulling her into a hug and breathing in her scent. That sweet combination of playground and the strawberry shampoo I used on her hair. But it's better now that I'm with you. Marcus wouldn't meet my eyes as he set down the takeout bags. I got Thai from that place you like. Thanks, I said flatly. We ate dinner in almost silence. With only Amara's chatter about her day filling the void, Marcus kept glancing at me, probably trying to figure out if I was suspicious or just upset about the fake firing. I kept my face neutral, but inside I was screaming. After dinner, after Amara's bath and bedtime routine, Marcus tried to talk to me about finances again. I shut him down, saying I was too emotionally exhausted. He looked frustrated but didn't push. Good. I needed him to think I was just a devastated wife dealing with job loss. I needed him to think his plan could still work. That night, lying in bed next to him, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those debt notices, those forged signatures, those threatening messages, and I kept thinking, how did I not know? How did I share a bed, a home, a child with this person, and not see who he really was? But I knew the answer. I'd been comfortable. I'd been trusting. I'd believed that because we said vows in front of God and our families. Because we'd created a life together. That meant we were safe. That meant he'd never hurt me. I'd been so wrong. And now, I had to figure out how to protect myself and my daughter from the man I'd once loved more than anything in the world. The man who was sleeping peacefully beside me while planning to financially destroy me. The next morning, I pretended to get ready for my meeting with HR. I put on a professional outfit, did my makeup, grabbed my purse. Marcus was watching me carefully from the kitchen where he was making Amara's breakfast. Make sure you read everything before you sign it, he said casually. But I could hear the urgency underneath. Especially anything about your retirement accounts. Those rollover forms can be tricky. Maybe take pictures of everything and send them to me before you sign. So I can look them over. I'll be fine. Marcus, I said, checking my reflection one more time. I'm a grown woman. I've signed plenty of documents in my career. I know, babe, but this is important. This is your future. Our future. Just humor me, okay? Our future. The audacity of this man to talk about our future when he was actively trying to rob me blind. I kissed Amara goodbye, grabbed my keys, and headed out. But I didn't go to my office. Instead, I drove straight to the law office of Keisha Montgomery, an attorney Shanice had recommended. Shanice's cousin had used her during her divorce, and she'd said Keisha was a pit bull in the courtroom and a strategist outside of it. Keisha's office was in a sleek building in Buckhead. When I walked in, I was struck by how put together everything was. Elegant but not pretentious. Powerful but not intimidating. The receptionist led me to Keisha's office, where a woman in her mid-40s with natural hair styled in a perfect twist-out and a sharp burgundy suit greeted me. Mrs. Ira Simmons. She shook my hand firmly. I'm Keisha Montgomery. Shanice gave me the overview of your situation. But I want to hear it from you. Everything. I spent an hour laying it all out. Keisha took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions, her face remaining professionally neutral throughout. But when I got to the part about the forged signatures and the debt collectors, I saw anger flash in her eyes. 85,000 to one creditor alone? She leaned back in her chair. And he's forged your signature on credit applications. Mrs. Simmons, this isn't just grounds for divorce. This is fraud. Identity theft. These are crimes. Can I prove it though? I asked. I mean, yes, I have the documents Shanna's found. But is that enough? It's a start, Keisha said. But we need more. We need bank records showing where the money went. We need proof that those signatures aren't yours. And we need to establish a timeline of when this started and how long it's been going on. She turned to her computer and started typing. First things first. We're going to freeze your credit immediately. All 3 bureaus. That way he can't open anything else in your name. Then we're going to pull your credit report and see what damage has already been done. Over the next 2 hours, Keisha helped me lock down every financial account I had. We changed passwords, added 2-factor authentication, and set up alerts for any suspicious activity. She helped me open a new bank account at a different bank, one Marcus had no knowledge of, where I could start redirecting my income, assuming I told my employer I was still working. That was the other problem. I told Marcus I was fired, but I couldn't actually quit my job. I needed that income now more than ever, which meant I had to maintain the lie at home, while somehow continuing to work. About that, Keisha said when I brought it up, how long can you keep up the act? Because eventually, he's going to notice money's still coming in. He's going to see you leaving the house. He's going to get suspicious. I've been thinking about that, I said. What if I tell him I got a temporary consulting gig? Something that pays less but keeps some money coming in. That way I can explain still going to work, but he won't expect as much income. Smart. Keisha nodded approvingly. That could work. But Ira, I need you to understand something. Based on what you've told me, your husband is desperate. Desperate men are dangerous. If he figures out that you're onto him before we have all our legal ducks in a row, things could escalate. Escalate how? Keisha leaned forward, her eyes serious. He could drain your accounts before we can stop him. He could hide assets. He could become violent. I've seen it happen. I need you to promise me that if anything feels threatening, you'll leave immediately. Take your daughter and go somewhere safe. The thought hadn't even occurred to me. Marcus had never been violent. He'd never even raised his voice at me. But then again, I'd never thought he was a gambling addict who'd steal my identity either. I promise, I said quietly. Good. Now, here's what we're going to do. Keisha laid out a comprehensive plan. First, we'd continue gathering evidence. She was going to hire a private investigator to track Marcus's movements and financial activities. Second, we'd prepare divorce papers, but we wouldn't file them until we had everything we needed for both the divorce and potential criminal charges. Third, she'd help me consult with a financial advisor who specialized in fraud cases to assess the full extent of the damage and create a recovery plan. The retainer she quoted made me wince, but she was worth it. I wrote the check from my newly opened account, knowing this was an investment in my future and Amara's safety. When I left Keisha's office, it was almost noon. I'd been there for 3 hours. I needed to get home before Marcus got suspicious about how long an HR meeting should take. I stopped at a coffee shop and bought myself a latte, then sat in my car in the parking lot and called my actual boss, Patricia. Patricia, I need to talk to you about something, and I need it to stay completely confidential. Simone? Patricia's voice went from friendly to concerned. What's wrong? Are you okay? I told her a carefully edited version. That I was going through some personal issues at home. That I needed to keep up appearances, that I was no longer working there for a few weeks, but that I absolutely wanted to keep my job and would do whatever I needed to do to make it work. Patricia was quiet for a moment. This is about Marcus, isn't it? The question surprised me. What do you mean? Simone, I've met your husband at company events. I've watched how he acts around you, especially when people mention your salary or your promotions. I may have been concerned, but it wasn't my place to say anything. Tears stung my eyes. You noticed? Honey, I'm a black woman who's been in corporate America for 30 years. I've developed a radar for men who are threatened by successful women. And your husband always struck me as someone who liked the benefits of your success but resented you for it." She was right. Looking back, I could see it. The subtle put-downs disguised as jokes. The way he'd mentioned to friends that he let me have my little career. The times he'd diminished my accomplishments while inflating his own. "Can you help me?" I asked. "Here's what we'll do," Patricia said without hesitation. "You're going on temporary leave for personal reasons. That's what anyone who asks will be told. But you'll work remotely, from somewhere he can't see your computer screen or hear your calls. You'll keep your full salary, and I'll route your direct deposit to whatever account you specify. Your team will know you're still their manager, but we'll handle it discreetly." "Patricia, I don't know what to say. Thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to handle this. Too many women stay quiet and suffer. You're doing the right thing. Now go home, play the part, and let me know what else you need." By the time I got home, I felt fractionally more in control. I had a lawyer. I had a plan. I had support. But walking through that front door and seeing Marcus on the couch, smiling at me like everything was normal, made my skin crawl. "How'd it go?" He stood up, walking toward me. "Did you sign everything?" "Not yet," I said, setting my purse down. "They need me to come back next week. Some issue with the paperwork timing and the fiscal year. But they went over everything with me. And the retirement accounts." His eagerness was barely concealed. I pulled out my phone, showing him pictures I'd taken of random financial documents I'd found online and cropped to look official. "They're rolling it all into an IRA. I should have access in about 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I saw him calculating again. "Okay, that's good. That's manageable. And the severance?" 6 months' salary, I lied. "But it'll come in installments. First payment should hit our joint account in a few days." That seemed to satisfy him. He pulled me into a hug that I had to force myself not to recoil from. "We're going to be okay, babe. I know this is scary, but we'll figure it out together." Together. Right. Over the next few days, I fell into a routine of deception. I'd leave the house each morning as if going to a consulting job I'd told Marcus I'd secured. Instead, I'd go to Shanice's house, where she'd set up a home office for me in her guest room. I'd work my regular job remotely, managing my team through video calls with my background set to a generic office setting. Marcus was getting more anxious as the days passed. He kept asking about the severance payment, about when I'd have access to my retirement funds. I kept giving him excuses. Bank processing delays, additional paperwork needed, anything to buy more time. Meanwhile, Keisha's private investigator, a no-nonsense woman named Tanya, was following Marcus. What she discovered was worse than I'd imagined. Marcus wasn't just gambling online. He had a whole other life I knew nothing about. He frequented an underground poker game in a warehouse in southwest Atlanta twice a week. He'd been seen meeting with known loan sharks. And worst of all, he'd been seeing someone else. A woman named Crystal, who worked as a dealer at one of his regular poker spots. Keisha showed me the photos in her office. There was Marcus, walking into a run-down building with Crystal. Marcus, sitting at a poker table, stacks of chips in front of him. Marcus, handing envelopes full of what was presumably cash to dangerous-looking men. How did I not know? I asked, staring at the images. How did I not see any of this? Because he didn't want you to, Keisha said gently. And because you trusted him. That's not a character flaw, Ira. That's what spouses are supposed to do. He's the one who violated that trust. Keisha spread more documents across her desk. Now, here's where things get interesting. One of the men Marcus owes money to? He's been investigated by the FBI for racketeering. The poker game he frequents. It's been under surveillance. And Marcus has been on camera, multiple times, discussing his plans to access your money to pay off his debts. They recorded him? They recorded everyone. Tanya has a contact in law enforcement who was willing to share some information unofficially. And Ira, on these recordings, Marcus explicitly talks about draining your retirement accounts, without your knowledge. He talks about forging signatures if he has to. He even jokes about how trusting you are. The betrayal cut deeper with every word. He joked about it. About deceiving me. About stealing from me. About destroying my financial security. To him, it was all just a game. We have enough for fraud charges, Keisha continued. Identity theft. Forgery. Possibly even conspiracy, depending on how the DA wants to play it. But here's my recommendation. We file for divorce first. We get an emergency protective order and freeze all joint assets. Then we turn over the criminal evidence to the authorities. That way, you're protected legally before the criminal proceedings start. When? I asked. When do we do this? Soon. We're almost ready. But Ira, I need you to be prepared. When we file, when he's served with papers and realizes what's happening, his reaction could be explosive. You and Amara need to be somewhere safe that day. The plan was set for the following Monday. I would take Amara to school like normal, but then I'd pick her up early, claiming a doctor's appointment. We'd go to Shanice's house. Marcus would be served with divorce papers and a restraining order at our home. Sheriff's deputies would be present in case things went south. That Sunday night was the longest night of my life. I went through the motions, cooked dinner, watched a movie with Marcus and Amara. I tucked my baby girl into bed, reading her favorite story about a brave princess who saved herself. The irony wasn't lost on me. Mommy, Amara said sleepily as I kissed her forehead. Are you and Daddy fighting? Why would you ask that, baby? Because you don't smile at him anymore. And he watches you all the time now. Like he's waiting for something. My 5-year-old daughter had noticed what I'd tried so hard to hide. No, sweetie, we're not fighting. Mommy's just been stressed about work. But everything's going to be okay. I promise. She studied my face with those wise eyes that seemed too old for her age. Okay, Mommy. I love you. I love you too, baby, so much. When I went to bed that night, Marcus was already there, scrolling through his phone. I noticed he angled it away from me, hiding the screen. More secrets. More lies. Ira, he said as I climbed under the covers. We need to talk about money. The first severance payment should have hit by now. I checked our account today, and I'm not seeing it. My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. I told you, there were delays. It should be this week. This week isn't good enough. He turned to face me, and I saw something dangerous in his eyes. I have payments due. Important payments. I need that money now. Marcus, I can't make the bank move faster. You're going to have to wait. Wait? He sat up, his voice rising. We don't have time to wait, Ira. You don't understand the situation we're in. We? I sat up too. What situation are we in, Marcus? Is there something you need to tell me? I saw the calculation in his eyes. He was deciding how much to reveal, how much he could manipulate me into helping him. Finally, he sighed. I'm in some debt. Business debt. I've been trying to handle it on my own, but it's gotten out of control. I need access to some funds to clear it up. How much? Does it matter? He was getting agitated now. The point is, I need money. Your severance, your retirement accounts. We need to liquidate them now. Tomorrow. I've already found a guy who can help us do it quickly, even with the tax penalties. Tomorrow is Monday, Marcus. The bank won't even be open by the time I'd need to. I was stalling, my mind racing. Then first thing Monday morning. Promise me, Ira. First thing. I'll see what I can do. I said carefully. That's not good enough. His hand gripped my arm, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to scare me. I need you to promise me. First thing Monday morning. You'll go to the bank and withdraw everything. You're hurting me, I said quietly. He looked down at his hand like he was surprised to see it there. Then released me. I'm sorry. I'm just stressed. But Ira, this is serious. If I don't pay these people, there will be consequences. Real consequences. For you or for us. For all of us. He looked at me. And for a moment, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. These aren't the kind of people who just let things go. Please, babe. Just trust me on this. Trust. That word again. The word he'd destroyed between us. Okay, I lied. First thing Monday morning. He visibly relaxed. Thank you. You won't regret this. We'll pay off the debts, and then we can start fresh. Maybe even think about moving. Getting out of Atlanta. Would you like that? Sure, Marcus. Whatever you think is best. He kissed my forehead and rolled over, apparently satisfied that he'd secured my cooperation. Within minutes, he was asleep, his breathing deep and even. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, counting down the hours until Monday morning, until I could take my daughter and leave, until the truth would finally come out, until this nightmare that my marriage had become would finally end. Around 2 a.m., I heard Marcus's phone vibrate. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. The screen lit up with a text message. Crystal. Baby, did she agree to give you the money? Marcus. Yeah. Monday morning. Then we're good. I'll have enough to pay off Big Mike and start over with you. Crystal. I'm proud of you, baby. I know it wasn't easy using her like that, but we'll be together soon. Just a little longer. Marcus. I love you. Can't wait to be done with this whole situation. Simone's so naive, she'll sign whatever I tell her to. It's almost too easy. I set the phone down carefully, exactly where it had been, and went to the bathroom where I silently threw up. Then I slid down to the bathroom floor and cried as quietly as I could. He loved someone else. He'd been planning this for God knows how long. And he thought I was naive, too stupid to see what he was doing. Well, Monday morning was going to be full of surprises. For both of us. Monday morning arrived with a brilliant sunrise that felt completely at odds with what was about to happen. I woke up before Marcus, moving through the house like a ghost, packing a bag for Amara with her favorite toys, extra clothes, her stuffed elephant she couldn't sleep without. I packed a bag for myself too, just essentials. I hid both bags in my car trunk before Marcus even woke up. Breakfast was surreal. I made pancakes, Amara's favorite, and she chattered happily about an art project she was working on at school. Marcus kept checking his watch, checking his phone, watching me with barely concealed impatience. Don't forget, he said as I gathered Amara's school things. The bank opens at 9. I remember, Marcus. Good. His smile was cold. Text me as soon as you're done. I'll be waiting. I bet you will, I thought. I dropped Amara at school at 7:45, kissing her extra long, breathing in her sweet smell, trying not to think about how her whole life was about to change. I'll pick you up early today, baby. We're going to Auntie Shanice's house for a special day. Yay. Amara loved going to Shanice's house. Her daughter Kaya was Amara's best friend. Can we get ice cream? Absolutely, I promised. All the ice cream you want. At 8:30, I drove to Shanice's house. Keisha was already there, along with Tanya, the private investigator. They'd set up a command center of sorts in Shanice's living room, with laptops showing various security camera feeds they'd somehow accessed. Marcus is already pacing, Tanya noted, pointing to a feed that showed our living room. He's been on his phone constantly since you left, probably checking his accounts, waiting for money that's never coming. Keisha looked at me with concern. How are you holding up? I'm angry, I said honestly. I'm hurt and angry, and I want this to be over. It will be soon, she assured me. The process server is scheduled to arrive at your house at 10 a.m. We chose that time deliberately to give you enough time to pick up Amara and get to safety. Once he's served, we'll know exactly how he reacts. At 9:15, my phone started ringing. Marcus, where are you? His voice was tight. The bank's been open for 15 minutes. There's a line, I lied. It's taking longer than I thought. Well, hurry up. This can't wait, Ira. I'm doing my best, Marcus, I said, then hung up. He called 3 more times over the next 30 minutes. I let them all go to voicemail. Each message got progressively more aggressive, more desperate. By 9:50, I was back at Amara's school, signing her out early. She was confused but excited, chattering about what movies we'd watch at Auntie Shanice's house. At exactly 10 a.m., I pulled into Shanice's driveway. We all gathered around the laptop, watching the feed of my house. A sheriff's deputy car pulled up. 2 officers got out, along with a man in a suit carrying a manila envelope. They walked to my front door and rang the bell. Marcus answered. We couldn't hear what was being said, but we could see his face. Confusion, then shock, then rage. Pure, undiluted rage. He tried to close the door, but the officers blocked it. One of them said something, probably explaining that he had to accept service. The man in the suit handed Marcus the envelope. Marcus tore it open right there in the doorway. We watched as he read, as his face went from red to almost purple with fury. Then he looked up at the officers and said something. They shook their heads. He tried to push past them, but they held him back. One of the officers was talking to him, probably explaining the restraining order. The fact that he couldn't contact me or come near me or Amara. Marcus was shouting now. We could see it even if we couldn't hear it. His mouth moving, his arms gesturing wildly. Then he pulled out his phone and dialed. Seconds later, my phone rang. Don't answer it, Keisha advised. But I wanted to. I wanted to hear what he had to say now, that his plan had fallen apart. I put it on speaker, so everyone could hear. Ira, where the hell are you? What is this? Divorce papers. A restraining order. What kind of game are you playing? No game, Marcus, I said calmly. I know everything. The gambling, the debts, the identity theft. Crystal. All of it. The silence on the other end was deafening. You've been spying on me. His voice was incredulous, as if he was the victim here. I've been protecting myself and my daughter. Something you should have been doing instead of stealing from us. I never stole from you. That money is ours. We're married. Not for much longer. And Marcus? Those credit cards you opened in my name? That's identity theft. The police will be there soon to discuss that with you. You bitch. His voice dropped to something cold and menacing. You have no idea what you've done. The people I owe money to, they don't care about divorce papers or restraining orders. When they come for their money and I can't pay, they'll come for you too. Is that a threat, Marcus? Because the police are listening to this call. I don't care. You've ruined everything. Everything. We could have been fine. We could have paid them off and moved on. But you had to be selfish. You had to think about yourself instead of us. Instead of you. You mean? I was never part of your plan, Marcus. I was just a bank account to you. A means to an end. You're so self-righteous. You think you're better than me because you have some corporate job. You think your money makes you special. I made you. I gave you a family, a home, a life. And this is how you repay me. You gave me lies and debt and betrayal. That's what you gave me. And I'm done. Don't call me again. I hung up and immediately blocked his number. On the screen, we could see Marcus yelling at his phone, probably realizing I'd blocked him. Well, Tanya said dryly, he's taking it well. Over the next hour, Marcus tried to call from 3 different numbers. He texted from apps I didn't even know he had. The messages ranged from pleading to threatening to bizarrely apologetic. I didn't respond to any of them. Keisha forwarded all of them to the police and to the prosecutor's office as evidence of restraining order violations. At noon, Detective Ramirez from the Atlanta Police Department arrived at Shanice's house. He was a middle-aged Latino man with kind eyes and a serious demeanor. Mrs. Simmons, he said, shaking my hand. I've reviewed the evidence your attorney provided. We have enough to charge your husband with identity theft, fraud, and forgery. We'd like to bring him in for questioning today. I need you to know that this is going to get harder before it gets easier. I understand, I said. He looked at Amara, who was playing with Kaya in the next room, oblivious to the drama unfolding. She doesn't know yet? I'm going to tell her today. I've been putting it off. But she deserves to know the truth. An age-appropriate version, anyway. Detective Ramirez nodded. For what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. I've seen too many cases where women stay out of fear or misguided loyalty. And it never ends well. You're brave. I don't feel brave. That's because you're in the middle of it. Trust me. You are. At 2 p.m., we learned that Marcus had been arrested. He'd violated the restraining order by showing up at my workplace, demanding to see me. Security had called the police, and when they arrived, he'd resisted arrest. Additional charges were being added. Keisha showed me the booking photo. Marcus looked completely unhinged. His eyes were wild, his hair disheveled, his expensive clothes rumpled and stained. This was not the man I'd married. Or maybe it was, and I'd just never seen him clearly before. That evening, I sat down with Amara. Shanice had offered to stay, but I wanted to do this alone. We sat on Shanice's couch, and I pulled my daughter into my lap. Baby, I need to talk to you about Daddy. Is he okay? Her eyes were wide with concern. Daddy has been making some bad choices. He's been lying and doing things that hurt our family. So Mommy has decided that Daddy and I aren't going to be married anymore. You're getting divorced? She knew the word. Her friend from school's parents were divorced. Yes, baby. We are. But why? Doesn't Daddy love us? That's a complicated question. I stroked her hair. I think Daddy loves us in his own way. But sometimes love isn't enough when someone makes choices that hurt the people they love. And Daddy hurt us. Did he hurt you, Mommy? Are you sad? I'm sad. Yes. But I'm also relieved. Because now we can be safe and happy without worrying about Daddy's problems. Will I still see him? I don't know yet, honey. That's something the court will decide. But no matter what happens, Daddy's choices aren't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Grown-up problems are complicated, but they're never a child's responsibility. She thought about this for a moment. Can we still live in our house? Not right now. We're going to stay with Auntie Shanice for a bit while Mommy figures some things out. But then we'll find a new place. Just you and me. We'll make it perfect. Can I pick the color of my room? Absolutely. Then okay. She hugged me tight. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, baby, so much. Over the next few weeks, my life became a blur of court dates, meetings with lawyers, sessions with therapists, and slowly rebuilding our lives. The criminal charges against Marcus were substantial, with the evidence we'd gathered, the recordings from the FBI surveillance, and his violations of the restraining order. His attorney advised him to take a plea deal. He was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for fraud, identity theft, and forgery. He'd serve at least 3 before being eligible for parole. Part of his sentence included restitution. He'd have to pay back every penny he'd stolen from me. Though Keisha warned me that actually collecting that money would be challenging. The divorce was finalized 4 months after I'd first discovered his betrayal. I got full custody of Amara, with Marcus having no visitation rights until he completed his prison sentence and underwent mandatory counseling. I kept my job, my retirement accounts, and my dignity. He kept his debts and his consequences. My credit took some time to repair. Keisha helped me dispute all the fraudulent accounts, and eventually, they were removed from my credit report. The damage Marcus had done was significant, but it wasn't permanent. Crystal, his mistress, disappeared once Marcus was arrested. Apparently, she'd only been interested in him when she thought he had money. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. 6 months after everything came to light, Amara and I moved into a beautiful townhouse in Brookhaven. It was smaller than our old house, but it was ours. Truly ours. No lies, no secrets, no threats lurking in the shadows. I decorated Amara's room in lavender. Her choice. She hung up artwork she'd made in therapy. Bright and colorful and hopeful. My room was simple, peaceful. I hung one picture on my wall. A quote I'd found that resonated deeply. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is save yourself. Work became a refuge. Patricia promoted me to senior director, partly as recognition of what I'd been through, partly because I'd continued to excel even in the midst of chaos. My team respected me, and I found joy in mentoring younger women, especially about watching for red flags in relationships and protecting their financial independence. Shanice remained my rock. Girl, I'm so proud of you, she told me one evening over wine on my new patio. You could have ignored the signs. You could have stayed and let him drain you dry. But you didn't. You fought back. I had help, I reminded her. You, Keisha, Patricia, Detective Ramirez. I couldn't have done it alone. None of us can. That's the point. We need each other. That's what sisterhood is about. A year after the divorce, I took Amara to see Marcus in prison. It was supervised visitation, and I didn't stay for the actual visit. I waited in the car while a social worker facilitated their meeting. When Amara came out, she was quiet. How was it? I asked gently. He cried, she said. He said he was sorry. He said he made mistakes. Do you believe him? She thought for a moment. I think he's sorry he got caught. But I don't think he really understands what he did wrong. Is that bad that I think that? No, baby. That's called seeing clearly. And I'm glad you can see clearly. We didn't visit again. Amara said she didn't want to, and I respected her choice. She was in therapy, working through her feelings about her father, and her therapist said she was processing everything in a healthy way. 2 years after everything fell apart, I was thriving. I'd been promoted again, published several articles about financial abuse in marriages, and started volunteering with an organization that helped women escape financially abusive relationships. I'd turned my pain into purpose, and I'd started dating again. Nothing serious yet, just reminding myself that I deserved to be treated well, that not all men were like Marcus. Keisha had introduced me to a colleague of hers, a tax attorney named Daniel, who was kind, transparent, and respected my boundaries. We'd been seeing each other for 3 months, and while I was taking it slow, I was hopeful. One evening, I was cooking dinner while Amara did homework at the kitchen table. My phone buzzed with a message. It was from Marcus's prison email system. I debated not opening it, but curiosity won. The message was short. Ira, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I want you to know that everything you did, turning me in, protecting yourself and Amara, it was right. I was sick, addicted, lost. Prison has given me time to see that. You were the strongest person I ever knew, and I was too weak to deserve you. I hope you're happy. You deserve it. Take care of our daughter. Tell her I'm sorry. I read it twice, then deleted it. Maybe he meant it. Maybe he didn't. It didn't matter anymore. He was my past, not my present or future. Mommy. Amara called from the table. Can you help me with this math problem? Of course, baby. I walked over and looked at her homework. She was learning fractions, breaking wholes into parts, understanding that pieces can come together to make something complete. Kind of like us, I thought. We'd been broken into pieces by Marcus's betrayal, but we'd come back together, stronger and more complete than before. That night, after Amara was asleep, I stood on my patio looking at the Atlanta skyline. The lights twinkled like stars, each one representing someone's story, someone's struggle, someone's triumph. My story could have ended differently. I could have ignored Kenzo's warning. Amara's observation. Could have buried my suspicions. Could have let Marcus destroy us financially and emotionally. But I didn't. I chose to see the truth, even when it hurt. I chose to protect myself and my child. I chose to believe I deserved better than lies and betrayal. And that choice, that single decision to test Marcus with those 3 words, "I got fired today," had saved my life. 3 words that changed everything. 3 words that revealed the truth. 3 words that set me free. I went back inside, locked the door behind me, and checked on Amara one last time. She was sleeping peacefully, her stuffed elephant tucked under her arm, a slight smile on her face. We were safe. We were healing. We were surviving and thriving. And that was everything. So, did you like this story? If you're watching from somewhere around the world, drop a comment and let me know what city or country you're from. I absolutely love reading your comments and seeing how far these stories reach. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you think or feel something, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes knowing you're not alone makes all the difference. Don't forget to subscribe for more true life stories. I'll see you in the next one. Stay strong, stay aware, and always trust your instincts. They're usually right.